What's up, guys? I'm SaltEMike, and this is your Star Citizen Week in Review for May 23rd, 2022. Invictus is here, and we already know about 2 new ships/vehicles. Chris finally wrote the letter for the chairman, and what's new? It's polarizing. Star Citizen is also supporting more community events. All that and more on today's Week in Review. And as always, if this is your first week in review, this is where I take all of the official Star Citizen news each week and throw it into one video and throw some of my opinions in there as well. And if you didn't know, I do live stream on Twitch, twitch.tv/SaltEMike every day but Monday, so I can get this video out to you guys starting at 6:30 a.m. Eastern time. And I do have a second channel too that I've been posting a lot on as well called SaltEMike 2. So if you guys want to check that out, feel free to do so. But we have a ton to get through this week, so let's start out with patch notes updates. And this week we had a number of PTU patches that eventually turned into a 3.17.1 live. So for 3.17.1b on the PTU, we had Expo Hall testing. On Monday last week, they tested a number of the Expo Halls that we're going to be seeing this week, minus the Drake one, along with a Javelin Tour and a Bengal Flyby. These continued throughout all of the other patch notes that we will be discussing this week as well. So for feature updates for this patch, they balanced the Scorpius fuel use because it was pretty rough, and a bug causing the turret guns to be unswappable. They fixed a number of other bugs that just I didn't really feel were too much of note. Then for 3.17.1c on the PTU, we had more feature updates with the paint system, which is slowly being updated to what we would hopefully want it to be, where now you can store ship paints in your inventory and move them to the locations that you want them to be. There's also like a little paint icon for our inventories as well, and some minor adjustments to the Scorpius turret. Bug fixes again, just a number of minor bug fixes, and I'm foreshadowing something here. For 3.17.1d on the PTU, bug fixes was the only thing. There were no feature updates here. The first one isn't fixed because I got hit with an elevator yesterday. So stay safely away from elevators if you are using them, because they will hit you and they will kill you or knock you out into the void, basically. They also fixed Drake Mule Beep, which is a ship that we'll talk about later. And I believe the last one, when I see it, our corpses should spawn when we die. I've come to my corpse before, and it's just an invisible marker there, so hopefully that one's good. And then for 3.17.1 live, these were all the things that we talked about today and a little bit last week that culminated into this live patch. And it is a mess. Bugs, crashes, server stalls, services down. They did a number of minor fixes on the PTU, but rushed this patch out, it feels like, because the marketing team dictated the schedule for the Invictus event. And yeah, all these notes will be linked in the description for the PTUs, but specifically the live, since I won't be sharing that much on stream. But I understand that a free fly will cause more issues than usual, right? More players, more issues. That's just how it is. But if you can't see what's going on here, I can't help you guys. Moments like these will completely contradict and invalidate the next thing that I'm about to talk to you about. After almost 2 years and $500 million, the man speaks again. Now, most of you probably have seen it. It's one of my most popular videos that I've ever done, is when I broke down this letter for the chairman on the main channel. So link to that will be in the top right. If you haven't seen it, I'll go into much more detail there than I am going to go into here. So yeah, this was long overdue. He went over a lot, but I just want to summarize for week in review for you guys, if you haven't seen that video yet, about the key takeaways from the letter. So the first key point for me is admitting your faults. CR first admits, well, it's nobody's fault that we had to do work from home. 2020, 2021, and even now, the game's development certainly has slowed because of it, and they're excited to get back to the office. But they are totally going to respect every employee's individual needs. On the same theme, they let us know that iCache, the persistent savior from years ago, didn't work out for Star Citizen. Star Citizen scale was too big, and that feature couldn't scale to it. And we now have been hearing a lot about Entity Graph, and it's now known as PES, or Persistent Entity Streaming, and that was its replacement. And admitting that fault was a bit late. I think that's for sure. And I think it's borderline malicious how late that they told us this, like very clearly. So I wish they said this a bit earlier, but it kind of is what it is. And I like the direction that we're going in now. And let's hope it stays that way and we don't have the issues from the past. Next, CIG hit a major milestone. Persistent entity streaming, which we just discussed, was demoed in the studio, and it worked. This is going to mean that anything that we drop on the ground should remain there. Ships can become salvageable wrecks, and anything you can think of that the game can save our state with, right? This is a big deal. The other major part of this is that this tech in particular is the majority of the work to make server meshing possible, at least static server meshing. So we're well on our way to that also. Now, changes are coming. Because PES is such a major bit of tech, they are not going to rush it onto the live servers. They are going to hold back 3.18 and make sure that they fix all the issues that come in with PES and deal with any edge cases. Now, because of that, the cargo refactor and salvage, which were developed with PES in mind and are tied to it completely, will only be on the PTU servers until they're happy with PES's stability. So we're going to get a 3.17.2 late in June with some content probably planned for 3.18 that isn't tied to PES. There's also no CitizenCon live this year. They're not going to be doing it, and they're also, the big point here is that they're not going to be doing a demo. Just a highly detailed bunch of dev presentations that we've kind of always seen and they've done in the past. The things that I kind of find sort of boring, but sometimes there's some interesting ones there, and they don't want devs distracted by a demo. This is a major change in the way they do things. One of the biggest ones, in my opinion. More players are playing and paying. This is made possible. All of these changes are made possible because more people are playing Star Citizen and staying there. That was the main theme of this post for me, is that a lot of the changes that they made, they're able to make because the game is promoting itself in a lot of ways, and they don't feel that kind of pressure anymore. And the last theme is, this was all talk. This was Chris Roberts writing a letter. No videos, no demos, no images, just talk. This is nothing new from this company. Without action, none of this means anything. And sadly, like I shared earlier, the first action since this letter, literally right after it, was pushing out a patch too early and having a ton of issues during a free fly event, during one of your biggest funding drives, and not keeping the live servers kind of together. And in the coming weeks, we'll really see if they show us PES in action. I think that that's the next step. Like, hey, major milestone, great. But if you don't show it to us, it hasn't happened, right? So it doesn't really matter until they actually walk the walk. And that's going to be very important. And I hope we see that going forward. Then we move on to video updates. And starting out right away, we had an Inside Star Citizen titled Onto the Breach, and it was a new ship featurette called the Anvil Legionnaire. So the obvious first thing to ask is, what is it?
It's a boarding ship. It's for a 2-man crew and then 8 people in the back.
The Legionnaire fills a gap in our lineup for both more lawful and less lawful careers where you need to take charge of another person's ship.
Now, we've been boarding ships for a while in Star Citizen, but it was mostly like weird bugs and exploits and just general sneaking onto people's ships. This ship doesn't feel like it was only made for funding. This ship feels like it was inspired by a need in the game and it was made for a purpose. And I think that that's pretty good. But this ship boards others in quite a clever and a surprising, at least to me, way.
Traditional flow for ship-to-ship docking is the person who wants to dock to the other ship requests it from the parent ship, and it's on the parent ship's pilot to accept or deny that, whereas the Legionnaire has onboard hacking abilities in the hacking minigame to perhaps forcibly override that acceptance and allowing it to happen instead.
Now, I love the idea of a hacking mechanic, but I do wish it was a bit more simple, actually. I feel like the mechanic of hacking may be overkill for a gameplay system like boarding, because the boarding action is the system, right? So what's behind that door, all the possibilities and things that can happen and variety that can happen in a boarding action is what I find would be the fun and excitement behind the mechanic. You don't really need to add that hacking on top of it to make it better, but it could add complexity, which could add even more excitement and make the mechanic even more interesting. Let me know what you guys think about that. I feel like boarding itself is super exciting because you don't know what's behind that door, but yeah, what do you think? Because I don't know. I don't know how I felt about the hacking. It felt kind of weird to me. Then the second half of the show was an Invictus lore feature, and they moved on to the lore behind Invictus launch week, which was pretty cool, but I didn't find any clips I really wanted to share with you guys. So if you want to know more behind the current event, the lore behind it, then link is in the description for Inside Star Citizen. Then we had a Star Citizen Live, which was the AI team's question and answer. Now, there's not a ton of here that I want to share, but they are doing some animation pickups for NPCs on transit, since we read stuff like that on the monthly report, and it would be nice for you guys to see that, I'm sure. And then they showed something that we've known about for a long time, but we haven't heard about for a while.
It houses the ship components. So things like shield generators, quantum drives, relays, whatever it ends up being. And inside there, you're going to have things like fuses, or whatever other kinds of subcomponents that might be relative to that component, and they're going to affect the statistics of the component in some way. Most likely just like, if certain fuses were broken, you would probably expect the thing to not work as well as if it had 3 fully functioning fuses.
Subcomponents must be a part of the engineering gameplay, min-maxing, that I've always been excited for in Star Citizen. And this little Squadron 42 sneak peek at this honestly gives me confidence that the level of detail and hopefully the level of interactive, tactile, tangible gameplay that we're going to be getting coming from Squadron 42 into the PU might actually be strong. So it does raise my confidence level on that just a little bit, but it's not really going to happen until we see it. Again, walking that walk, not talking the talk. And the next part was what performance improvements will make AI work better. We all know that this has been a very difficult thing, and they had a very long answer to this, which was mostly just a number of bug fixes that they're going to deal with. But it is very clear, based on a lot of the things that they said, that server meshing is kind of the catalyst for a lot of the AI working better, right? They can do their little minor bug fixes and try to find performance wherever they can. They said that they need to ask developers to keep the entity counts down. Good luck with that and the art team. So those things are what they're trying to do, but it's all hinging on server meshing. The rest of the show was just about the process, more game dev stuff, so link is in the description for SCL if you guys are into that. And then other updates, a lot of Invictus stuff here. So again, Invictus 2022 is here, and if you don't know what this is a big in-game convention that is used to promote ship sales on their website and to obviously fund the project, right? It is a very important time of the year for the game studio. There's a tour of the Javelin, so you can go inside and hear voice acting and stuff like that about the ship, and you can also fly by a Bengal carrier that is going to stations around the system. For the convention, all the ships listed on the page can be rented if it's working at the convention center. So day 1 and day 2 is Anvil. They did come up with the new concept, the Legionnaire, that we talked about earlier. It's $100 if you're going to use new money and add it to the project, or $120 if you're going to use any store credit. For day 2 and 3, we're on day 3 now as this video is being posted. Nothing new here for ships. It's Aegis, so they didn't really add anything, but there is a new Redeemer paint, so if you guys want to check that out, you can. The remaining schedule is on the pages linked in the description, which I will touch on next week. So if there's any new exciting things there, we'll touch on that. The Drake Mule, we touched on that at the beginning of the video. We also did a video about that on the main channel. That will be more gone over during Drake Day when we know the prices and other things like that, right? So discounted starter ships, there's also an actual discount sale. This is a big deal. They don't do this that often. So if you haven't picked up Star Citizen at all and you're interested in some of these decent options after the free fly, Check it out. Link will be in the description for that. Invictus Screenshot Contest. They're going to be doing a different screenshot contest for every day at the convention. So if you want to partake in that, again, there'll be a number of threads and the rule post down there in the description below. The Legionnaire Q&A post. So if you're excited about this ship, which it is very exciting, it's very different, right? There's a lot of questions that need to be answered because it's a concept ship, so a lot of people don't know what's going on. The questions are really good so far, so I'm really looking forward to the answers, which we'll touch on in next week's episode. Then the Dunlow Derby. This is very cool. This is a Star Citizen community-run event that is really being supported and promoted by the Star Citizen community team. They even made a highly produced trailer for this thing. That is super awesome to see. Now, given that they need to focus on key game features and the development of Star Citizen, I don't think the support should go past the community team for now, but it would be really nice to see like proper racetracks made in the game with maybe some input from these guys, right? And then we had a lore post which was about the first UEE senator that is Tavaran and how that impacts the political landscape. And lastly, a sneak peek, which just appears to be a flashlight. It could be something else. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. And that'll do it with today's episode. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. I've been making a lot of changes to the channel. I posted a lot of things on the channel that I would normally save for week in review. So let me know what you guys think about those changes. Your feedback's incredibly valuable. I really do appreciate it. Also, make sure you hit that like button because it is really, really important, and leave a comment down below and hit subscribe for more weeks in review. And I'll see you guys all next week.